President Trump has finally won North Carolina as the arrogance of the dismissive liberal media is red-pilling Americans like never before. In this video, we're going to take a look at the latest pronouncement on Trump's win, as well as a Senate pickup for the Republicans. We're going to take a look at how the mainstream media is completely losing any and all credibility as a whole, all as a new way of consuming news and information promises to replace the mainstream media even as we speak. You're not going to want to miss this. As always, we're going to dive right into things here. First, I'd appreciate you smacking that bell and subscribe button. And let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that's our good friends over at Virtual Shield. Gang, if you're not using a VPN or virtual private network on your desktop, tablet, or mobile device while browsing the internet, then you really are exposing yourself to a lot of potential danger. But protecting yourself online simply has never been easier. And look, I'm going to show you. Here's all you got to do. Go to virtualshield.com, download the free 30-day trial, install it, and click connect. Once I'm connected, do you see how my IP address is now different than the one before? I'm now basically invisible on the web. So if you don't want websites or the government or advertisers or anyone else knowing your website activity, then you need to download this VPN. Now, to make it even better, Virtual Shield is offering our audience 50% off all VPN plans and all premium add-ons. So don't wait. It is a limited time offer. Click on that link in the description below and sign up for a free 30-day trial to Virtual Shield VPN today. All right, gang, great news coming in. We're just off the wire. Finally, the decision desk has called North Carolina for President Trump. Tom Tillis as well has won the Senate seat there for a Republican pickup. This should never have happened in the first place. There shouldn't have been the slightest dragging of feet here among the media to call North Carolina. But now it is in the bag for Trump, even with all the fraud and attempts by bureaucrats to extend the voting deadline to November 12th. It was all for naught. President Trump has won North Carolina. Now we're waiting on Georgia, which is an abject disaster in terms of the fraud that's blatantly going on in Atlanta. We're waiting for Pennsylvania and Arizona, and possibly flips in Michigan and Wisconsin. You want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on the updates for there. Now, I know many of you are absolutely livid over the way the leftist activists disguised as journalists in our mainstream Marxist media have attempted to certify and legitimate this coup by the Democrats and the deep state as they actively attempt to steal this election. Poll analyst Richard Barris over at the People's Pundit hit the nail on the head precisely when he tweeted out that no pollster, no major news outlet claimed that Joe Biden would win these swing states by running up abnormal, totally unprecedented vote totals in metro areas like Milwaukee and Atlanta and Philly and Detroit. Now all the pollsters like, Nate Silver and the Washington Post, they came out and they claimed that their polling showed Biden would win Wisconsin outright by flipping counties like Chinooka County. And here's Barris's undeniable mic drop. That didn't happen anywhere. That's in many respects the key here. The 17-point lead in Wisconsin that was supposed to turn the state in toto over to Biden, with suburban women turning their backs on Trump in rural areas and the like, that didn't happen. That happened nowhere. Biden won because of a totally unprecedented, inordinate batch of votes coming out of inner cities that are ripe with fraud. The Gateway Pundit has uncovered that 5 battleground states with Democrat governors, all at around the same time, stopped counting their votes in what appears to be a coordinated effort. And of course, all these states have Democrat monopolized urban areas where hundreds of thousands of ballots suddenly showed up, all voting for Joe Biden. Newsmax is reporting that Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada all mysteriously quit counting after midnight. 5 of those 6 states have Democrat governors. What's going on there? Why did that happen? Well, if you want to know the answer to that, you cannot go to the mainstream media. And you certainly can't go to Fox News. And that's because the mainstream media's reaction to all this, most especially Fox News, is to just dismiss it, wave their hand with their eyes wide shut, and discount as nothing more than the conspiratorial rantings of sore losers. Now, didn't you hear we, the United States media, we declare Joe Biden the 46th president-elect of these United States. This election is over, period. Now, this kind of dismissive arrogance which pervades the mainstream media, fortunately, is becoming the occasion for their downfall. Take a look at this. Look at the latest numbers coming out of Fox News. The ratings for Fox have utterly crashed. They've imploded. Look at this. CNN topped Thursday night's election coverage with an average 6.3 million primetime viewers, beating Fox News for the second night in a row. Friday night, it was even worse. The ratings for Fox fell behind both CNN and MSNBC for the first time in years, according to an internal Fox document containing viewership analytics. And we reported just yesterday that Fox News experienced one of its worst rated weekends ever. Astonishingly, the Fox News channel came in a distant third place to CNN and MSNBC when CNN announced that Biden had been coronated by the media. And this ratings revolt is happening even at the top of the ticket, as it were. Look at these numbers for Tucker and Hannity. You're not going to believe it. For the 18 to 49-year-old demographic, which is the most important demographic for advertisers, look at this. Hannity came in at number 16 the other night among the top cable news shows. 60. Tucker came in 17th place. Tucker and Hannity are always in the top 10, if not 1 and 2 of cable news ratings for this demographic. They're not even making the top 10 at this point. That's how bad things are for Fox News right now. And it's only going to get worse. I came across a great article by Gab CEO Andrew Torba entitled "The Great Awakening and the End of an Elitist Era." It's a short but excellent piece. And in it, Torba argues that the way we consume news and information is going through drastic changes, and that once the truth of this election finally surfaces, institutional media power will crumble to ash. No one will ever believe anything the mainstream media reports from now. No one will trust anything they see from big tech platforms or take any polls seriously from this point forward. And I love how he puts it. The era of smug inner-city elites dictating facts to us like a parent scolding a child is forever over. Nicely put. He goes on. Big tech, pollsters, pundits, and the mainstream media have all overplayed their hand for the last time. This false narrative and this fake president-elect will be the red pill to end all red pills. I love that. This will be the red pill to end all red pills. When the bubble bursts, and make no mistake, it will burst, the collective great awakening of people around the world will be an unstoppable force that will forever change the way we process, consume, and distribute information. Wow. Now he's on to something here. And by the way, I am on gab.com, so let me encourage you to click on the link below and join me over there as well. But what the CEO of Gab is saying here is spot on. He is not exaggerating in the least. I think the Fox News ratings crash demonstrates beyond any reasonable doubt that particularly conservatives have had it with the mainstream media model for acquiring and disseminating information. But this dissatisfaction, it's not simply the result of some bad election calls or just being turned off by the incessant arrogance of our mainstream media. It's actually reflective of a much wider and bigger transition that's going on in society right now before our very eyes. But first, we have got something awesome for you podcast fans out there. We recently launched our brand new Turley Talks podcast, which tens of thousands of you have been downloading. I cannot thank you enough for that. And we're so excited to share with you that we are now the 14th most downloaded podcast for American news on Apple Podcasts. We've jumped 20 slots just in the last few weeks. It's really absolutely amazing. We're now officially in the top 20 of American news broadcasts, and we have you to thank for it. But you can help us to actually become number one, the number one conservative news and commentary podcast, by simply clicking on that link below in the pinned comment section and signing up to download our new podcast. Twice a day, every day, you can take Turley Talks anywhere you go. So make sure to click on that link below and sign up for our Turley Talks podcast, and let's make it to number one together. All right, so there is a massive transition going on right now in our society where scholars have noticed that we're moving more and more away from what's called a mass society, and we're becoming more and more what they call a network society. So we're moving from a mass society to a network society. And this is radically affecting the way we consume media and information. So if you don't know, simply put, mass society is a term used for the type of society that developed during the Industrial Revolution. You know, when large concentrations of populations moved away from rural areas and conglomerated together in industrial towns and cities, mass urban areas. And that's where you first got, for the first time, big media. You know, this information monopoly centered in DC and New York City and LA and Chicago. And that's how we got our information for several decades, from mass media conglomerates and their affiliates like ABC, NBC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post, NPR. Big media, along with big tech, by the way, both big media and big tech, are products of what we call a mass society, where social life revolves around big, bloated, centralized, urbanized structures and institutions. But what scholars are noticing is that mass society is actually flattening out and giving way to a new way of organizing social life, and they're calling that the network society. That's the name that's being given to a new social order that's arisen in the past couple of decades that in effect bypasses the old bloated, bureaucratic, centralized institutional structures that used to serve as the mediators of communication. And then instead, it replaces them with an internet-based network of immediate digital information that transcends our localities. Perhaps the most obvious example of this is the way the post office has been largely replaced with texting, email, Skype, FaceTiming, you name it. If you think it through, we have all sorts of ways of bypassing the old centralized bureaucratic delivery system centered around the post office. But that's true of basically everything now. Back in the day, if I wanted to get into broadcasting, I'd have to move to a major city where one of the major networks or cable outlets or their affiliates have their headquarters, right? All I'd have to do is today now is just buy a $100 webcam and a $50 mic, set up my YouTube account or an account with a whole host of alt tech sites, and boom, I'm good to go. Back in the day, if I wanted to get into country music, I'd have to move to Nashville and get plugged in with the publicity agents, recording companies there and the like. Today, all I need is my guitar, my voice, and a YouTube channel. And I had the potential of reaching infinitely more people than I could have through going through the old, outdated publicity approaches centered in Nashville during a mass society period. See, the point is that scholars of a network society have recognized that with the rise of the internet, the old media, the legacy media, as we like to call it, right, is slowly but surely losing its monopoly over information acquisition and dissemination. It's frankly a joke to think that consumers of news are limited to the old network or cable outlets that monopolize information during a period known as mass society. So what we have to get here is that the outrage over Fox News and the mainstream media as a whole, and their thinking that they can actually monopolize our democratic process and start calling the shots of who gets to decide the winners and losers of an election, it's becoming more and more an outrage that a bunch of an old, increasingly irrelevant mass media folk think they still own a monopoly over the information and dissemination and acquisition that we experience. And as this Gab CEO pointed out, those days are over. A new generation of media content creators and consumers has arrived. A generation that's ready to take our place in the information age, where the handful of elites that have dictated to us the news are very simply no longer needed. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. And you'll definitely want to check out my latest video. I just put it up on how President Trump is declaring that we will indeed win. And the results that are coming in next week promise to shock the world. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.